Hello everyone, welcome back to Education Express. Now today we take chapter number 6, that is money chapter, functions of money. Very simple chapter and important chapter also. Now first thing, before we speak about money, we shall speak about barter system. What do you mean by the word barter system? Barter system means when goods are exchanged for goods. When goods are exchanged for goods, it is called as barter system. It is also called as C2C economy. C2C means commodity to commodity economy, because there is exchange of commodities for another commodity. Example, if I want to sell a book, then I cannot command the price for that book, because in the earlier days there was nothing called as money which we have today. So then I have to expect something as from the other party. That means if I am trying to sell the books, then the buyer over there who is buying my books, he should have something to sell. And when he has something to sell which I also wants to buy, then only our exchange can happen. That means whatever I have to sell, opposite party needs to buy the same thing, and the opposite party also needs to have such a thing which I need. Example, I want to sell books and in return I want a pen. So I have to find such a person who wants book and who wants to sell a pen. Then only me and he can enter into a transaction. So what I want to sell, other party wants to buy, and what that party wants to sell, I have to buy the same thing. Then only our barter system can happen, and that is basically called as commodity to commodity exchange. It is also called as C2C economy. So if they ask you for 2 marks in section A, what do you mean by barter system? Exchange of goods or commodities for other commodities and goods is called as barter system. It is also called as C2C economy. Perfectly correct. Now the next question, 5 marker answer, very very important. What are the disadvantages or limitations of this barter system? Let's see the disadvantages or limitation of barter system. 5 marker answer, 5 points. First point, that is lack of double coincidence of bonds. Lack of double coincidence of bonds. Double coincidence of bonds. What does this mean? Lack of double coincidence of bond. Double coincidence means, if you remember my example of barter system, what did I say? I need to find a person who wants to buy books because I want to sell books. Perfectly correct. What do I want in return? Pen. So I need to find a person who wants to buy book and who wants to sell what? Pen. तो ही तो मेरा और उसका transaction होगा. Sir, you want to sell books. Okay. Other party you got who wants to buy book, but he does not have pen to sell. He has got batteries to sell. Okay, battery. उसके पास बैटरी है, पेन नहीं है. तो can I and he enter into transaction barter system? No, we can't enter. So what I want to sell and what he wants to buy is called a coincidence. But what he wants to sell and I want to buy is double coincidence. So that double coincidence cannot happen all the time. Practically very very difficult to have double coincidence all the time. I hope you have understood. So if you want to put up in the point lack of double coincidence of bond, what does that mean? Double coincidence of bonds means simultaneous, the word simultaneous should come. Simultaneous mutual fulfillment. Simultaneous mutual fulfillment of bond of both the buyer and the seller. Means simultaneously and mutually we are satisfying the wants of both the buyer and the seller. एक का won't satisfy हुआ और एक का नहीं हुआ, then barter system cannot happen. So that is called as double coincidence. See, what I want to sell and the opposite party wants to buy is a coincidence. But what he wants to sell and same thing I want to buy is double coincidence. तो बार बार ये थोड़ी possible हो सकता है. So what will you write inside? What is lack of double coincidence of want? Lack of double coincidence of want is one of the biggest disadvantage of barter system. We are doing the disadvantage of barter system. Now, further, what is double coincidence? Double coincidence of wants means simultaneous mutual fulfillment of want of both the buyer and the seller. Simultaneous mutual fulfillment of wants of both the buyer and the seller is called as double coincidence. And then you write an example. Example: A wants to sell wheat. A wants to sell wheat, and in return he wants sugar. A को wheat sell करना है, and he wants in return what? Sugar. So now tell me, he'll have to find a person who wants to sell sugar and wants to buy wheat. Then only they both can transact. Otherwise, not possible. Hope you've understood. So that is called lack of double coincidence. That's the biggest disadvantage because every time you cannot get this coincidence. Okay. Next point we have lack of common measure of value. Lack of common measure of value. Another disadvantage of barter system is lack of common measure of value. Now, today we measure everything in terms of what? Money. But that time money was not there. So there was no medium of exchange. There was no medium of exchange. Your medium of exchange was goods for goods only, right? So, now lack of common measure of value. Now, since we did not have anything as medium of exchange, so then your measure of value depended entirely upon the intensity of want of an individual. Since we did not have a medium of exchange, so your measure of value depended upon the intensity of want of an individual. कौन कितना want कर रहा है, कौन कितना demand कर रहा है. So it entirely depend upon intensity of the demand, intensity of the want. खाली उसके ऊपर ही depend करता था. So that is why one party would always be at a disadvantaged position and one party would always be at an advantageous position. Because you're not getting a common measure. Now today though, if I want to sell or buy anything, you can express in terms of money. But वो time पे money था ही नहीं. So that entire your measure of value depended upon the intensity of the demand of an individual, or you can say intensity of a want of an individual. So always one would be at a disadvantage and one would be at an advantage. तो कोई ना, because they depended upon the demand, so एक को advantage होगा और एक को क्या होगा? Disadvantage. So that was a second disadvantage. Is that very clear? Lack of common measure of value. Third point, lack of divisibility. Third point is lack of divisibility. Now what do you mean by lack? How this is a disadvantage of barter system? Now since we did not have a medium of exchange like money that time, since we did not have a common measure of value, right? So now the next disadvantage what we faced was basically with regard to divisibility, and especially if the product is indivisible, and had to divide it into smaller denomination. अगर वो आपका product indivisible है and you have to divide into smaller denomination, then it was the biggest disadvantage. For example, one horse is equal to 5 ships. One horse is equal to 5 ships. So if somebody wants one ship, can you cut the horse? Not possible. So when an indivisible product was there and when we had to divide that into smaller units, it was practically not possible to do that, and that is why lack of divisibility is another disadvantage of your barter system. Fourth point, lack of store value or lack of storage. Now in those days, again, every commodity was basically exchanged for another commodity. People used to store their goods in the form of cowrie shells, you can say dried fish, rice, cotton. everything that was only called as money, right? Because that commodity for commodity, so that everything was stored in that form. Now when you are storing everything in that form, then what used to happen? It led to, because you were storing them, so the value used to what? Get diminished. After a passage of time, value used to get diminished. Plus goods could get damaged. These are because they are perishable, so goods could get damaged, and plus storage का cost लगता था. So एक तो storage का अलग से cost. Second thing, the value of the goods will get decreased, and third thing, the goods can get what? Destroyed because they were perishable. So you couldn't store everything since all the commodities were in the form of, you can say cowrie shells, you can say toys, you can say rice, cotton, dried fish, etc. कुछ भी form में आप बोलो, everything was in that form only. So storing का cost लगता था. It was expensive to store. Plus the goods were perishable, तो खराब हो जाते थे. And thirdly, the value would have what? Diminished. So that is another problem of barter system. And the last point, fifth point, very important, lack of standard of deferred payment. Lack of standard of deferred payment. The word deferred means to make payment in future. To make payment in future. Now since goods were exchanged for goods, that is called as barter system, there was nothing called as credit transactions. There was nothing called as future transaction. उधारी वाला business नहीं, future transaction जैसा कोई business नहीं. Okay, that is basically barter system. So if future में नहीं है, तो because why future में नहीं होता था? Why there were no future transactions? Why there were no credit transactions? Supposingly, if I take a cow from someone for 2 years and saying them कि भाई मैं आपको ये cow 2 years के बाद में दूंगा, so after 2 years the cow will get old. Will it be able to milk the same amount of milk? Not possible. That is why वो time पे deferred payments were not possible. Deferred means future payments were not possible. Now this lack of deferred payment had many problems. Like what? Problems like both the parties very difficult could agree upon the same commodity. Both the parties very difficult that they could agree upon the same commodity. Both the parties had a risk of the change in the value. Both the parties had a risk of changing the value of the commodity. Value भी तो change होता था commodity का, and also change in quality of the commodity. So the deferred payment के तीन problem थे. One thing, change in the value. Second, change in the quality. And third thing, both parties should come to the common commodity. कि भाई यही commodity के ऊपर हम लोग बात करेंगे in future. So that was practically not possible. So these were the three problems under standard of deferred payment. One was both the parties should come to the common commodity. One was it was about the quality कि future में quality same होगा कि नहीं होगा. And one was the change in the value of the commodity. So these are the 5 disadvantages of the barter system. What do you mean by the word barter system? Exchange of goods for goods is called as barter system, or exchange of commodity for another commodity is called C2C economy. So barter system या C2C economy is one and the same, and you need to write an example along with it. Is that very clear? Understand, खाली normal changing नहीं होता है. Whatever I have to sell, other party has to buy, and whatever he has to sell, I have to buy. Then only a transaction can happen. If I sell and he buys, that's a coincidence. What he has to sell and what I have to buy becomes double coincidence. So that is my first disadvantage. So every time it is not possible to have double coincidence. So what is the meaning you will write? Simultaneous mutual fulfillment of bond of both the buyer and the seller is called as double coincidence of bond, and then you write an example. Second point, lack of common measure of value. Now since we have right now money as, even if you have got, suppose double coincidence of bonds हो भी गया, suppose double coincidence of bonds हो भी गया, so another problem would be with regard to common measure of value. We did not have any common thing to measure. How we can measure everything in terms of money now? That time there was no common measure of value. So it depended entirely upon the demand of a commodity. It entirely depended upon the demand of an individual. What is the demanding? And thus one party would have been at an advantageous position and one party would be at a disadvantageous position. Third point, lack of divisibility. Now divisibility, now that used to happen especially in case of indivisible commodities when you had to convert them into smaller commodity. Commodity was indivisible and to convert into smaller commodity was another problem over here. Example, if one horse is equal to 5 ships, okay, then if somebody wants 1 ship, can you divide the horse? Not possible. Fourth one, lack of storage. Since all the commodities were in the form of cowrie shells, you can say cotton, rice, dried fish, etc. These commodities, when they were stored, the value could have got depreciated. Secondly, since these products, they were commodities, so they were perishable. And thirdly, storing them included a cost. So this were the disadvantages. एक तो store किया तो cost लगता है, दूसरा commodities were perishable, और तीसरा value could have got depreciated. And fourth, last point, lack of standard of deferred payment. Deferred payment means to make payment in what? Future. In that time, since there was exchange of commodity for commodity, there was no credit transactions, no future payments allowed. Because I gave you an example about the cow. If I take a cow for 2 years and return it after 2 years, does it mean that the quality of the cow will be same? No. So this point had got 3 problems in it. Which are the 3 problems? First, difficult that both the parties come to the common commodity. Second, difficult that the quality will be maintained throughout in the future also. And third, the value may keep on increasing or decreasing. The value may increase or decrease. These were the 3 problems under standard of deferred payment. Perfectly correct. Now we move on to the next answer. The next answer, explain the evolution of money or give the stages of evolution of money. How money evolved. So first, the next question for 5 marks, evolution of money. Under evolution of money, the first one is animal money. In the ancient days, very ancient days, that time cattle was basically considered as money. Cattle was considered as money. In fact, in our Atharva Veda, Go is basically cow. Cow was considered as a wealth. Okay, imagine that time people in marriages for dowry also na cow dete the. People who had got more cows, more cattle, they were considered to be very much rich also. And after that, in the Roman Empire's time, during the Roman period also, cows and cattle were collected as fines and penalties. Cows and cattle were collected as fines and penalties. So in the Atharva Veda, there was called as Godhan. That is, cow was considered as wealth. Go is cow, dhan is what? Wealth. Dhan, Godhan. So Godhan, it is wealth. And same way, even during, after Atharva Veda, during the Roman Empire, in the Roman Empire's period, during that time also, cows and cattle were considered as, were taken as fines and penalties. They were taken as fines and penalties. So, after this, so this is your animal money, ekdam initially mein. After animal money comes commodity money. After animal money comes commodity money. So when goods were exchanged for goods, that was your commodity money. So commodities were in various forms, what we had discussed. Now, this commodity money depended upon the location, where what type of commodity was used as money was depended upon the location, it depended upon the climate, and it depended upon the cultural and economic development. Cultural and economic development. So if I ask you 3 factors on which commodity money depended, it depended upon location, it depended upon climate, and third, cultural and economic development. So suppose if you are located near a seashore, if mankind would be located near a seashore, then cowrie shells and dried fish were used as commodity money. क्योंकि अगर आप लोकेशन वहां पे ही हो तो आपको तो खाली शेल्स और फिश ही मिलेगा. सो दे वर यूज्ड एज मनी. नाउ क्लाइमेट, if you are staying in basically cold regions, okay, cold regions of tundra and Siberian region, so if you are staying in cold region तो वहां पे climate is cool, so then animal fur and animal skin and their hides were regarded as money. So if you are staying in a cold country, तो animal का fur, animal का skin, hides were regarded as a commodity money. And thirdly, cultural and economic development. Those who are the tribal peoples, तो उनका culture ही क्या है? So they used to use, that is the ivory. Ivory मतलब जो trunk होता है ना elephant का, that then teeth of animals, okay, lion और उन लोग के सबके जो teeth होते हैं, they were used as an exchange for commodity. So ivory, animal teeth, they were used as commodity. So commodity money, it depended upon the location, okay, climate and cultural and economic development. So if you are staying near a seashore, okay, if you are living near a seashore, then cowrie shells and dried fish were used as commodity money. If you are staying near, if you are located in a very cold region, then animal fur and skin and hides were taken as basically commodity money. And for cultural and economic development, ivory and animal teeth, they were basically taken as commodity money. Is that clear? So after animal money, evolution was into commodity money. We are doing the stages, so it has to go in order. Third one, after that came metallic money. Metallic money. Since the commodities were perishable, and they could not be used for longer time, so metallic money came into use, and metals in the form of gold, silver, copper, all this were being produced. Gold, silver, copper, all this were being produced because commodities were perishable. Okay, commodities were perishable. We could not take it for a longer period of time. So gold, silver, ये सब में money started coming up. That was metallic money. Now, after metallic money came paper money. Paper money. Since metals like gold and silver were very heavy, and to take them from one place to another place was very, very difficult in handling. Apart from that, the production of gold and silver was lesser as compared to the production in trade and industry. So money replaced metallic money. I repeat again, why metallic money was replaced by paper money? Because first of all, metals were heavier and it was difficult to carry them from one place to another place. And plus the production of metals was lesser as compared to the production in trade and industry, and that is the reason why paper money was evolved in the 18th, 17th and the 18th century. Very much used into paper currency. जो paper में हमारी जो currency है ना, notes जिसको हम लोग बोलते हैं, that is paper money. And after that, lastly came bank money. Now since paper में problem क्या हो रहा था? There was an issue of counting of currency notes. There was a storage problem. But obviously पैसा को करेंसी को कहां पे रखना तो पड़ता है ना. So there was a space problem, storage problem, and secondly there was a counting problem. So paper money was replaced by bank money. When I say bank money, that includes checks, drafts, bills of exchange. Okay, check, draft, bill of exchange, they all come under bank money. What was the problem with the paper money? One thing, there was an issue of counting. Second thing, there was an issue of space, storage space. So, and apart from that, the bank money, why this bank money came up? Because trade and industry were far more developed. Okay, more transactions started taking place. So rather better was bank money in the form of check, draft, bill of exchange, which could easily be taken from one place to another place. Abhi, for example, carrying 1 crore in cash और वो एक चेक पे 1 crore लिख के जाओ, that is much more easier. So a depositor in a bank, he can withdraw that just by signing a check. So that was your bank money which came into existence. So this were the different stages of money. And now, आपके book में नहीं दिया, but if you want you can add up. Now we also have got plastic money. Plastic money is in the form of debit card and credit card. So plastic money also, if you want to add, debit card and credit cards are taken into consideration, is called as plastic money. Debit card and credit card, what is the difference? Debit mein you are using your own currency, own money, what do you have in your bank? And credit card mein bank has given you a limit and you need to use that much limit if you want, and then you need to pay it back. That is called as credit money. Okay, so we have got plastic money mein debit card and credit card. Debit card mein you're using whatever is there in your bank account. Credit card mein bank has given you a limit and you use that limit. It is called as your credit card. So these are the stages in the evaluation of money. The first one was animal money, where in the Atharva Veda also it is written Godhan, that is cow, was considered as wealth. In the Roman Empire also, cattle and cows were taken as fines and penalties. After that came commodity money, where goods were exchanged for goods, commodities were there. So it depended upon the location. If you're located near a seashore, then cowrie shells and dried fish were used as money. If you are seeing a climate, like if you're staying in a cold area, then animal fur, skin and hides were used as money. And culture and economic development, like their culture of the tribal people is to use ivory, then you can say teeth of animal, lion or whatever it may be there, they used to use that. For them, that was the commodity. But since these commodities were perishable, they were not long lasting, so it converted into metallic money. Metals in the form of, that is gold, silver, bronze, copper, all were taken and produced and were exchanged in place of basically commodities. And then after that comes paper money. Since the metals were very heavy to be taken from one place to another place, and plus the production of metals was lesser as compared to the production in trade and industry. So paper money came, and paper money was very much prevalent in the 17th and the 18th century. And then comes your bank money. Bank money replaced paper money because paper money had the disadvantage of counting and space problem. Plus business transactions had reached far and wide. So bank money came into existence, which was in the form of checks, drafts, bills of exchange, which is easier to carry from one place to another place also without any hassle, no counting issue, nothing. And then comes the plastic money in the form of debit card and credit card. Is that clear? So these two answers of 5 marks, very, very important. Now we go on to the, how did the word money, how was the word money derived? The word money is a Latin word. It is derived from a Latin word moneta, derived from Latin word moneta, which was discovered in the temple of the Roman goddess Juno, which was discovered in the temple of the Roman goddess Juno. वहां पे ये word discovered हुआ था. The Latin word, so money is derived from the Latin word moneta, which was found at the temple of Roman goddess Juno. Okay, so if I ask you how was the word money derived, or from where was the word money derived, it was derived from the Latin word moneta, which was in the temple of the Roman goddess of Juno. Is that very clear? So only that much you need to remember here. Now the next part we have, give the legal definition of money. Give the legal definition of money. The legal definition of money says that, anything which is prescribed by the law, anything which is prescribed by the law or anything which is prescribed by the government is called as money. Anything which is prescribed by the law or anything which is prescribed by the government is called as money. That is the legal definition. This legal definition is also called as fiat money. Why it is called fiat money? Because it is issued by the order of the government. It is issued by the order of the government. Issued by the order of government. That is why it is also called as fiat money. It is not flat, huh? Please change in your textbook. It is called as fiat money. F-I-A-T, fiat money. Okay. So legal definition says that anything which the law prescribes or anything which is prescribed by the government, it is called as the money according to the legal definition. Okay. Next one we have functional definition. Give the functional definition of money. The functional definition of money is given by Professor Crowther. Okay, C-R-O-U-T-H-R, Crowther. So, according to him, anything which has a medium of exchange, anything which can be used as a medium of exchange, and along with it has measure of value and store value is called as money. Anything which has anything which can be used as medium of exchange and measure of value and store value is called as money. So that is the functional definition given by Crowther. Anything which can be used as a medium of exchange and a measure of value and along with its store value is called as money. That is what you need to learn in the functional definition. And now give the narrow and broad definition of money. Narrow and broad definition of money. The narrow definition of money says that currency issued by the government in the form of coins and notes. Currency issued by the government in the form of coins and notes is your narrow definition of money. So if I say about the narrow definition, currency notes and coins issued by the government, and they can be used as a medium of exchange is your narrow definition. And what is the broad definition of money? The broad definition of money says that currency notes plus coins which are issued by the government plus that is the deposits with the bank of the public and also the post office deposits. Post में भी हम लोग deposits रखते हैं ना, and plus demand deposits. Demand deposits means deposits which are kept in the bank. Why they call demand deposits? Because they can be withdrawn anytime on demand. It's your money. Whenever you want, you can withdraw it from the bank. So it is called demand deposits. So post office deposits and also demand deposits will come under broad definition. So broad definition includes currency notes plus coins plus demand deposits plus post office savings deposits. Post में भी हम लोग है ना deposits रखते हैं on which we earn interest, so that also comes under money. So narrow definition, just currency notes and coins issued by the government which can be used as a medium of exchange. And broad definition में narrow तो include होगा ही होगा. So currency notes plus coins plus demand deposits. What are demand deposits? Which are withdrawable on demand. The deposits which we have kept with the bank which can be withdrawn on demand, वो भी पैसा ही तो है, so that also comes. And post office savings deposit. Post office में आपने जो deposits रखे, they are also included over here. So all these are for 2 marks. How is the word money derived? It is derived from a Latin word moneta in a temple of the Roman goddess of Juno. Legal definition, anything given by the law or anything prescribed by the government is called as legal definition of money. It is also called as fiat money. Why fiat money? It is issued by the order of the government. Functional definition given by Crowther, anything which can be used as a medium of exchange and can act as a measure of value and also store value. Narrow definition, currency note plus coins issued by the government and use as a medium of exchange and broad definition, currency notes plus coins plus demand deposits plus post office savings deposits. Is that very clear? So I finished with the two answers, 5 marks, and then I gave you the description about money. Now in my next part of the video, you will get the further answer. Thank you very much.